Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Look what I've got. I've got a CZ P-09. This particular one is chambered in 9mm. They're available in both 9 and 40. And it's got the typical CZ low profile slide, gives you a lower bore axis. These guns are really popular with various competition people. They're perfect for that type of thing. The triggers are nice, the low bore axis, and they tend to be really reliable. But even if you're not in a competition, it's a really nice gun and they're really pleasant to work with. So let's start out with ensuring that it not only is it pleasant to work with, but it's unloaded. So we have an unloaded P-09. This is a DASA hammer-fired gun, and along the classics, and it's a big gun. This thing is bigger than a Glock 17. So I've got a Glock 17 right here to show you real quick. It's a big gun. It's long, it's got a tall grip. There's nothing small about this. But this video is not about Glocks, so I'll put that thing away and get back to talking about the CZ. The CZ comes with the ability to set it up as a decocker, which by default this one in the box was set up as a decocker. You can also readily convert it to a safety with parts that actually come in the box, and it's really not a difficult gunsmithing job. Of course, you can't really see well with the plastic, but it's basically a replacement for the decocker components to convert it to a safety, and you can convert it back. So you come with everything that you would need to set it up the way you want it. It's got forward serrations that make it really easy to do press checks, rear serrations. Now one thing you'll find is with the low profile slide, it's a little harder to get a hold of it than a Glock or a PPQ or others with a tall slide. But it's very reasonable. The serrations are good and grippy, and it makes it easy to get a hold of. And it's not a particularly heavy slide, so it's fairly easy to deal with. It's got a little bit of serrations here for you can put your finger on, whether you're left or right-handed, for those that like to put the finger there for finding that spot on the frame, be away from the trigger. The takedown lever or slide stop slide release, its combination, is really easy to get a hold of. It's got these little ridges on it that really make it, if your thumb's long enough, easy to get a hold of. But being a big gun like this, I've got average size hands, it's a little harder to get a hold of it. Nice deep beaver tail, which makes it really easy to protect yourself from that hammer. With the combination of that low profile slide and that deep beaver tail, you're not getting hammer bit by this thing unless you want to. Comes with 3 replaceable back straps. They come in the box, so you can customize the back strap to fit. And it's nicely textured, front, sides, and rear. It's textured enough that it's comfortable to hold and easy to keep in your hand, but it's not going to tear your hand up or otherwise beat you up. And notice the undercut on the trigger, or the trigger guard, makes it really easy to get right up there on top of it. It does have a Picatinny rail with multiple slots. With the length of slide on this thing, there's plenty of room for that. And the trigger guard does have a little bit of serration at the front of it if you like to put your finger on the front of the trigger guard when you're firing. But the only way you're doing that is if you've got decent sized hands, because as you can see, I can't even reach the front of the trigger guard with my fingers. So we're dancing around the trigger here. Let's go ahead and actually do something with the trigger. So right now I have it in single action mode. You'll see that there's a decent amount of take up. You come to a noticeable and then a slight creepy wall, but it's really smooth, and a light break. Now CZ on their site has the single action mode as 5 pounds. We measured it as 4.5, so it's pretty close. And there's the reset, which is pretty much all the way out. Back on the wall, break. Now if I go back to the reset, there's an audible click and then more take up to get back to the wall, and then the break. So it's a decent trigger, it's really smooth and light, but it's not a super short reset. Now if in double action mode, trigger all the way out, it's very smooth, stacks a little bit at the back and then breaks. According to CZ's site, it's 12 pounds, we measured it at 10. Either way you look at it, it's a little bit heavy, which is typical of a DA trigger, but it's really smooth right up until the very end where it stacks just a bit. So overall, a very nice trigger. These do come with the Omega triggers, which is one of CZ's newer trigger variants. And it's really easy from a competition standpoint or just a fun day at the range, or if you were using this for defense, to get a good follow-up shot and operate that trigger. So I've mentioned a couple times this is not a small gun. It's 8.1 inches front to back, It's 5.79 inches tall, and it's 1.46 inches thick. And that, the ears for the safety levers, which, by the way, you'll see that the safety decocker is ambidextrous. The magazine release is reversible, so that you have the ability to make this comfortable for either a left or right-handed person. The sights on it are actually really nice, easy to see, bright 3-dot sights. These happen to be the photoluminescent, so they glow green in the dark if they've had a light charge. One of the things I found with the photoluminescent is they're often dull gray when they're not lit. That's not true of these. They're actually really easy to see. You can kind of see the greenish hue on the front one when it's kind of out of focus. But we found these sights fairly easy to see at the range, and the photoluminescent, is not really a night sight in true form, because over time it will fade. But it does actually give you a little bit of ease to see it when there's been some light on it. It doesn't take a whole lot of light to kind of charge it up and make it visible. Let me show you a P-07, because it's kind of hard sometimes to figure out from CZ their naming convention and what's what. So here's a P-07, just to give you a size perspective within the CZ line. So there is a P-07. You notice the P-07 is a significantly shorter gun overall. The thickness is the same, but you can see the the height and the length is noticeably different. It's also basically the same size as the SP-01 variants. So again, we're up there in the larger, beyond service weapon, almost into competition size gun. Disassembly on this is actually relatively easy, so let me show you how to do that and show you some of the internals and show you the drop safeties. One thing real quick before I take it apart, I almost forgot to talk about the magazines. It comes with 2 of these 19-round magazines. They're steel magazines, very well constructed, very robust, and they're easy to get a hold of, more of them. But in 19 rounds, you've got quite a bit of capacity in there. So let's go ahead and get this thing disassembled. To disassemble it, you pull it back just a little bit so that these 2 lines line up. And on the other side of it, hidden by my hand, you'll see right there is a pin. And you use something plastic to just give that a little push. So I'm going to grab it a different way so you can see it. Hold it that way. You give it a little push to pop it loose, and then flip it over and pull it out. So you really don't need a tool. You could use the edge of a cartridge, you could use your cleaning rod, you could use the handle of the cleaning rod that you're going to use to clean it, a pen, just about anything to get that popped in. And I'm sure over time, when it's got a little bit of mileage on it, you might be able to just take and push it with your finger and get it to pop out. At this point, it just slides apart. We'll put the slide down for a moment and talk about the internals. One thing you'll find on this is that the guide rails go the opposite direction, and that's typical of this type of gun, of the CZs with the internal rails. So they face in instead of facing out. The rest of it is your typical DASA fire control group at the back, a little bit of complexity, a little bit more going on with the DASA trigger, and then of course the hammer. Overall, everything's well constructed, smoothly machined. I haven't found any burrs or any other issues with the slide. Or, I'm sorry, the frame. Now the slide is where it gets a little unique. See the guide rails slots? They're on the outside. Typically on a Glock or something else, they'd be on the inside. And this basically takes the slide, the thickness of this, and lowers it down into the frame, which gives you that very low bore access. Comes with a captive single guide rod spring. It's a wafer type spring. Barrel has a very highly polished feed ramp, and everything on here is well machined, very well constructed. It's typical for CZ. Their quality is very, very high. Let me show you what the rifling looks like. It is conventional rifling, and a lot of times you'll find that the CZs will like the 124 grain ammo a little bit better than 115. Now, we're fine with 115, but to get the ultimate accuracy potential out of them, run them with 124, and they'll give you everything that you're going to look for. Nice, smooth, well finished. Same thing is going to be true of the slide. There's no machining marks, no extra messing around. It's actually really smooth and clean. There's the plunger for the firing pin block, so that again it is a drop safe weapon. And it's a little bit of a heavyish slide. It's thick construction and solid, but overall it works quite well. Putting it back together, basically just as easy. The only thing you do need to make sure of is that you center this properly. If you don't, you may have it hang up on the frame when you try to put it back together. And then you just slide it back together. Bring it back until you can see light through the hole there. Stick the pin in to catch it. Then pull it back till the lines line up. And just snap it in place. And you're back in business. So it's a really easy to maintain gun, and not needing any tools beyond something to give that a little bit of a start. It's actually really easy to maintain even in the field. These are good battle weapons, they're good range guns. Thing's a lot of fun at the range. The size of it and the controllability of it, it makes it an excellent range gun. It'd make a good nightstand gun. It's a bit on the big side for carry. You might want to go towards something like the P-07 if you're looking to carry it. But there's guys that carry full-size 1911s. You could easily carry this. At 31 ounces, it's not particularly heavy, but it's not the lightest thing out there. There's Glocks, PPQs, and XDMs are a little bit on the lighter side. But overall, it's a good weapon for whatever it is you're going to choose to use it for. With an MSRP of $530 and market availability well below that, it's also not going to break the bank to pick one of these up. You'll even notice kind of a relief cut back here to improve the ability to eject, so that you're going to find these to be reliable. And the CZs, these series of the various CZs have a reputation for being very reliable and very durable. So thanks for watching. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe. If you do, click that bell to get notified. Check us out on Facebook and Patreon, and have a great day. Thank you.